We supply more, seller profit is higher. So A can never be the answer. Only answer is C. So guys, I don't know why we are not on the same page. Please pay very close attention or ask questions if you don't understand. Because that is a real exam question that I would be asking during the exam. Now the summary of supply curve, what we have talked about until now. Symbol, what is movement, what is shift, and what is supply curve? What is supply? Law of supply. Law of supply means if the price of the product rises, quantity supplied also increases. So what happened? What is the movement? If there is a change in quantity supplied, and the reason is price, we call this movement. What is shift? Shift means if the reason is not price, we call this shift, and there are 4 variables that call this shift. Number 1, input prices, then expectations, number of sellers, and then we talked about which one? Technology, right? So I have pasted your book table here. So just if you remember the concept, you don't need to pay attention here, because it's already obvious that price means movement along the curve. If price changes, if input prices changes, technology changes, expectation changes, number of sellers changes, we all see shift in supply curve. So let's take a break for 10 minutes and then we start from here again. Okay. Okay, welcome back after the break. So we just finished our discussion on the power of supply curve, the market force of supply. Let's talk about the next concept, which is supply and demand together. So if we plot supply and demand curve on the same graph, price and quantity here, this situation is called supply and demand together. So here the equilibrium, which is this cross section, is referred to the situation in which price has reached a level where quantity supply, this is supply and this is demand. So this is quantity demand and also quantity supply. So equilibrium is a position on which price has reached to the level where quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So what is the equilibrium price? So this price is called equilibrium price, and this quantity is called equilibrium quantity. So remember, if I write it down QE, so which means this is that level on which quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded, and on that level price is called equilibrium price. So let's just explore further. So what is the equilibrium price? So it is a price which equates or balances quantity demanded and quantity supplied. So on the graph, it is the price at which supply and demand curve intersect each other. Quantity, equilibrium quantity, which is the quantity supplied and quantity demanded at equilibrium price. On the graph, it is where quantity supplied and quantity demanded intersect. So if you see here, so even if I do not write down here this is supply schedule or this is demand schedule, so can you find out which one is the demand and which one is the supply? Look at the price here. Price is going up, right? What is the quantity here? Quantity is, you see that quantity is going down. So this must be the case of demand. So This table is demand table or demand schedule. And here if you see price increases and here quantity also increases. So this must be the case of quantity supplied. So recall our discussion. Just we finished the discussion of equilibrium quantity. Which one is the equilibrium quantity? That quantity on which quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded. So if you see here, quantity supplied is 19 and quantity demanded is 19, quantity supplied 0. Quantity supplied 16, 0. 13 here. And if you see here, quantity demanded 10, quantity supplied 4. And if you see here, the next one, which is quantity demanded 7, quantity supplied exactly 7. So it means our equilibrium quantity is 7. Look at the price against this 7. 2, also the same. So we have equilibrium price and equilibrium quantity. Here equilibrium quantity is 7, equilibrium price is 2, right? And if you go beyond this one, you don't find any example of equal quantity demanded or equal quantity supplied. So even without making the graph, you can also guess, and you can guess right that this situation is basically equilibrium situation here, right? First of all, we looked at the schedule, whether this is demand schedule, whether this is supply schedule, and then we find a point where quantity equates with the price, or price equates with the quantity. You see quantity supplied is equal to quantity demanded. On the same graph, price is equal to 2. Right? So at 2, the quantity demanded is equal to the quantity supplied, which is 7. So if we draw this table here, this is supply, this is demand. So if you see, the demand curve is different, supply curve is different, and they intersect at this point. And if you see, this point is 2, and on quantity, this is 7. So we have QE on graph is 7. We have price equilibrium 2. So any question regarding this market equilibrium or equilibrium? Om, Vanessa?
No.
No? Okay, good. Now let's talk about some advanced stuff. Surplus. If quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded, we call this surplus. It means the supplier, the producer will produce more than the customer demanded. So in that case, what we call this excess supply. Surplus is equal to quantity supplied minus quantity demanded. So there are a couple of ways you can denote it. Here on graph, this is quantity demanded and we have equilibrium here. So remember, what is surplus? Where quantity supplied greater than quantity demanded. So which case is this? So when the price is above the equilibrium, there is a surplus in the market. How? So when the price is here, how much is the demand and how much is the supply? So demand can be found on demand curve. So demand curve is here. So this is the demand and this is the supply. So supply is 10 Demand is 4. So 10 greater than 4. And how much is the surplus? 10 minus 4, 6 is the surplus. There are a number of ways you can find out the surplus. Number 1. So this is the market price right now. And this is the equilibrium price. On equilibrium price, quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. So we call this QE. So remember, whenever price is greater than market price is greater than equilibrium price, we have surplus. One definition. Second definition, when quantity supplied in the market is greater than quantity demanded, we have surplus situation. Understand? So we have two definitions of surplus. So both can be acceptable. Number 1, when quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded, or when the market price is greater than, which is 2.5 is greater than 2, which is equilibrium price, we have surplus here. Right? And how much is the surplus? This area is called surplus. Some students,
I have a question.
would just wait a second. Some students, they say that, okay, this is the surplus. No, the area, this area, the triangle area here, called surplus. So here, right? So there are now 3 definitions of surplus. Number 1, when quantity supplied greater than quantity demanded, right? Second, when market price is greater than equilibrium price, or the area above equilibrium point, above equilibrium point, right? So in 3 ways I can test. Through practical example, I can generate a scenario here and I can say that, okay, find out the surplus. Surplus is this triangle here. Not this part, not this part, not this part, this part, only this part, this triangle. Right? Only this. Some students, they also included this one, this one, this one. No, only this one. Yes. Question.
No, my question was already answered. Thank you.
So, okay. Guys, now understand? Sufyan, Haroon, Manisha, Marco.
Yes.
Good. Priscilla, Nana.
I'm sorry, can you repeat those 3 points again? I didn't really follow it.
Which point? The first 2 points?
Yeah, the 3 points.
3 points. Okay.